Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most thrilling, high-stakes narratives from ancient history, straight from the Book of Esther and its study materials. We're talking about a story packed with power, a genocidal plot, calculated diplomacy, and literally risking it all for a higher purpose. Let's jump right in. To really understand the gravity of today's deep dive, you've got to ask yourself, what would you do in a true life or death scenario? Would you intentionally break a terrifying law if you knew it was the absolute only way to save thousands of innocent people, even if it pretty much guaranteed your own execution?
And if I perish, I perish. Those iconic words belong to Esther. She was a young Jewish woman who actually became the queen of the sprawling Persian Empire. She faced an impossible choice and decided to rely entirely on a higher power to save her people. But, to understand how she got to this intense turning point, we really need to rewind a bit.
Section 1. A throne left empty. Let's set the scene in the ancient Persian Empire so we can understand the immense power dynamics at play before our hero even enters the picture.
The sheer scale of wealth and, honestly, ego on display here is just staggering. King Ahasuerus ruled over a massive 127 provinces, stretching all the way from India to Ethiopia. To flaunt this glorious kingdom, he threw a feast in Shushan the palace that lasted 180 days. That's half a year. And right after that, he held another 7-day feast in the royal garden court. We're talking beds made of gold and silver and royal wine flowing like water. Well, on the 7th day of this second feast, the king made a fateful demand.
He commanded his chamberlains to bring Queen Vashti before him, wearing her royal crown, basically to show off her beauty to all the people and princes. But Vashti? She flat out refused to come. The text actually notes the king became wroth and his anger just burned within him. His advisors quickly stepped in, warning that if her defiance went unchecked, it would cause widespread contempt throughout the whole empire. So she was banished, and a decree was sent across all the provinces in every language. This dramatic event created a very dangerous political vacuum in the royal court, a vacuum that a young Jewish woman named Esther would soon fill.
Section 2. The ultimate risk. This brings us to a looming existential threat that sets the stage for our central conflict. So, a sinister new chief minister named Haman gets promoted by the king. Haman was furious that Esther's guardian, Mordecai, refused to bow to him, so he plotted the absolute destruction of all Jews in the kingdom. Esther had kept her Jewish identity a complete secret, and now she was the only one in a position to stop him. But there was a massive obstacle. The Golden Scepter Law. In the Persian court, entering the inner court uninvited meant automatic death, no exceptions. Well, unless the king mercifully extended his golden scepter. To expose Haman's plot, Esther had to knowingly violate this terrifying law.
Section 3. Pride and the plot. As this crisis builds, we see a fascinating contrast between two central characters in this political thriller.
It really paints a picture of two completely different mindsets. On one side, you have Haman, a man deeply driven by pride and anger. He's literally bragging to his wife Zeresh and his friends about the glory of his riches and how he was promoted above all the other princes. On the flip side, we have Esther. Rather than relying on her royal status, she demonstrated extraordinary humility. She asked her people to fast with her for 3 days and nights, relying entirely on the Lord for spiritual strength before she dared to face the king.
This brilliantly illustrates that Esther wasn't just brave, she was highly strategic. You can really see her diplomatic pacing in action here. Step 1, she fasts with her people. Step 2, she approaches the king uninvited. And to her massive relief, he extends the golden scepter. But instead of just blurting out her accusation right then and there, step 3, she invites the king and Haman to a banquet. And at that banquet, step 4, she invites them to a second banquet the following day. She was carefully, methodically setting the stage.
Meanwhile, Haman's hatred was reaching an absolute boiling point. Blinded by indignation that Mordecai still wouldn't stand up or even move for him at the king's gate, Haman constructed a massive gallows. How big? 50 cubits high. He built this towering structure specifically to hang Mordecai on the very next day.
Section 4. The tables turn. The tension finally breaks at Esther's second banquet, where the villain's extreme pride leads directly to a shocking reversal of fortune.
At this second banquet of wine, the king is deeply pleased with Queen Esther, and he makes her a stunning offer. He says, "What is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee, even to the half of the kingdom." The door is finally wide open for Esther's ultimate request. Esther finally drops the bombshell. She reveals that her people have been sold to be destroyed and slain. When the king demands to know who would dare do such a thing, Esther points right at Haman. The king is absolutely furious, and in a devastatingly ironic twist detailed in the source texts, one of the chamberlains casually mentions the 50-cubit gallows Haman had just built for Mordecai. The king immediately orders Haman to be hanged upon it. Haman is completely condemned by his own spiteful actions. Section 5. Deliverance and Legacy. So, with the villain gone, you'd think it's over, right? But Esther still had a massive problem. She had to find a way to save her people from the original death decree, which was already in motion.
See, the crucial point is this. According to Persian law, a decree written in the king's name and sealed with his ring absolutely could not be reversed. No way around it. The original threat was still legally binding. But, crucially, the king gave his royal ring to Mordecai. This allowed him to draft a brand new, overriding law to counteract Haman's original plot. The scribes were quickly called in, and this new decree mobilized a massive defense. Letters were rushed out by posts on horseback, mules, and camels to all 127 provinces. The Jewish people were officially granted the royal right to gather together and defend their lives against anyone who would assault them. This bold move delivered them from destruction. What's more, Mordecai was elevated to become the second-in-command to King Ahasuerus, and Esther was given the house of Haman. Talk about a complete turnaround. Section 6. Finding your own courage. Now, let's pivot from the ancient Persian court and look at how the study manual suggests we apply these exact lessons to our lives today.
Remember when Mordecai initially urged Esther to speak to the king? He asked her this profound question: "Who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" The study text highlights that, just as God placed Esther in a specific position to accomplish his work, we are often placed in unique situations, whether that's at school, at home, or with friends, that require us to act with purpose.
From this, we can distill several powerful applications. The manual emphasizes that as you rely on Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, they will absolutely give you courage. It points to fasting as a critical tool for spiritual strength, just like Esther used. It warns against the pride and anger that completely consumed Haman. And importantly, it notes that true courage isn't always about facing death. Oftentimes, it's about having the determination to just live decently, to stand for principle against the crowd, and to let God prevail in your life story.
The study materials actually offer a fantastic way to make Esther's resolve personal. We can call it the courage formula, inspired by her famous statement, "And if I perish, I perish." Step 1 is, "And so I will," where you identify the righteous action you need to take. Step 2 is, "And if," where you acknowledge the possible negative consequence, like maybe being mocked or misunderstood. And step 3 is, "I will," where you commit to rely on the Lord for strength anyway. It's a brilliantly structured way to build Christ-like courage in your everyday life. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Take a moment to truly ponder your own life. Look at your circumstances, your social circles, the challenges you're facing right now. Where might you need to demonstrate this exact type of bravery today? Where is the Lord asking you to stand up for such a time as this?